It's about the I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Gets the ball, gets back, pulls up for the win. Got it! Detroit basketball.
Oh, Holloman looks the clock, half court for the win.
Viking three. He's a pass. It's a touchdown to give. Javi Baez homered earlier. First one in the air, deep left field again. Yes, Tigers win. Javi is unstoppable.
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. Welcome one, welcome all. Another cold night in Michigan. This will be, I think, the second to last night where it'll be pitch black by the time I do the show. I think. I mean, you know, with the spring forward on the 8th, that should mean that we have a little bit more natural light in my apartment during the show, which would be nice. So either way, Detroit fan, let's see. He's got his prediction of what the show is going to be about. Let's see what he's got. News prediction: Pistons got outplayed by the Spurs. Dylan Larkin and USA win gold. Taylor Decker does not retire. MSU basketball big road game against Purdue. Pistons play OKC tomorrow. Red Wings return. I mean, we'll probably touch on a little bit of those things. So you definitely keep up with your stuff. That's for sure. But we'll get to some of the other, I guess, the more pertinent stuff like the Taylor Decker stuff. I didn't dedicate, anything in the show notes to it because I guess it's kind of breaking news-ish, sort of. It's still somewhat unclear to me whether he will come back to Detroit, but we'll see. Anyway, we'll jump into it in a bit. Let's start with the Pistons. So, look, this past weekend, it was very good for the Pistons. They went into New York, and they massacred the Knicks. I mean, they took the Knicks. I know the score says it's just a 15-point win, which I don't think anybody really thinks is like a blowout. They took control of this game, and they never looked back. The Knicks, throughout much of this game, were completely outmatched. The first half, Karl Anthony Towns looked like he wishes he could play any other sport other than basketball right now. And once again, Jalen Brunson is basically taken out, or at the very least, Jalen Brunson is overcome by the fact that the rest of his team is not doing enough. So it's either Brunson is doing everything, or Brunson is neutralized, in which case the entire team, kind of falls apart. Now, granted, you can say that for most good teams. But either way, then they go out, they beat Chicago, a little bit of the, I guess, if you want to call it a revenge game for Jaden Ivey, who did not play. And look, there's a reason why we only got Kevin Huerter and a pick swap for him. He's currently not playing for Chicago. So that's the status of that. But last night was, I think it could have been a huge barometer game. It could have been a huge announcement game to the Western Conference, but they lost, and they lost pretty handily. It was close at the half. I think they were only down by 2, thanks to a couple of free throws there in the final seconds by Victor Wembanyama. But San Antonio was the better team that night. Now, is that to say that, okay, the season's over, we're not going to go to the NBA Finals? No. But I wanted to sort of ask the question because I think, given the record the Pistons have, they're 42-14, nearly at the end of the month of February. If you want to say they bought at the deadline, I guess you could say that. I would say they mostly stood pat because Kevin Huerter is basically just a bench warmer at this point. He really is not involved in the team. Maybe later down the line he could get involved if some injuries start to mount, but as it stands right now, he's not involved right now. But my question is this: are the Pistons a finals or bust team for you as a fan? Now, for me, no, they're not a finals or bust team. Now, if they went out and traded for James Harden or went out and traded for Kawhi Leonard or something, then yeah, I guess you could say that. But no, I mean, this is a team that I think absolutely could make the NBA Finals. And frankly, this is a team that I think could win the NBA Finals. Their defense is that good, and Cade Cunningham is that good. And on that point, I need to just rub this in some of these, stubborn New York and other NBA fans. Cade Cunningham is an MVP candidate, and I don't want to hear anything about it. Okay? I got a couple of stats for you. The first one that comes to, that I brought up, that I looked into yesterday evening, which I thought was absolutely crazy. You want to talk about valuable player for his team? The last time that Cade Cunningham, in a game that he played where he did not lead the team in either points, assists, or rebounds in that game, was December the 12th. Do you want to know the other time when that happened? It didn't. One time this entire season, Cade Cunningham did not lead the team in either points, assists, or rebounds. The other times, he did not play, so naturally he can't lead in those stats. Absolutely incredible. Now, among guards, he's 8th in points, 8th in rebounds, and 1st in assists. And given, if you want to say the teammates around him, he doesn't have a real superstar shooter around him. He does obviously have all-star Jalen Duren, so he's got that going for him. But outside of Duren, Duncan Robinson's a fine player. Javonte Green's a fine player. He doesn't have, a true, number two to him. He doesn't have De'Aaron Fox like Victor Wembanyama does. And he's still 1st in assists among guards, which is incredible. So just for the record, just get this narrative out of your head that Cade Cunningham is not an actual legitimate MVP candidate, because he is. He just is. I mean, like, if he didn't play for Detroit, people would be talking about him way more than they probably do as far as MVP candidates go. If he was in New York, if he was in LA, if he was wearing, purple and gold, if he was wearing, green and white out in Boston, he absolutely would be in MVP talks. So don't give me this. Don't give me this. Cade is not an MVP candidate. Just stop. Just tell me you don't watch the Pistons. Tell me you don't watch the best team in the Eastern Conference without telling me you don't watch the best team in the Eastern Conference. That's all I have to say. I mean, how many times has this team had to dominate an Eastern Conference team that's allegedly at the top? Cough, cough, New York Knicks. Cough, cough, Boston Celtics. Cough, cough, whomever. I don't know how many times that we had to do that. And Cade Cunningham has to go off for it to get through people's skulls. Anyway, that's my own little pet peeves. Now, looking ahead here, a lot of the the next few games are going to be Western Conference focused. And by Western Conference focused, I mean Oklahoma City and San Antonio. So we already lost the one game San Antonio. So I wrote, if you lose all three, if you win just 0 out of those 3, it's something to be concerned about. And I know that it's still February. At that point, it'll be March. I do think it would be a little something to be concerned about, that you go and you play some of the best teams in the West and you go 0-for. Yeah, it's a little something to be concerned about, especially because your post-trade deadline, you can't exactly get better. If you win 1 out of 3 and you say, okay, you know what? Dust yourself off, move along. If you already at the best could split with the Spurs, and then maybe you lose to OKC tomorrow night. Fine. You dust yourself off, you move along. But now your only other opportunity here is if you win 2 out of 3. If you win 2 out of 3, you're feeling really good. You're feeling real good. Now, obviously, you can't win 3 out of 3, obviously, at this point. But you win 2 out of 3, you're probably feeling really good. So my hope is that they do win 2 out of 3. Now, among that, they also have a couple of games against Cleveland, 1 at home and 1 on the road. Cleveland, who made the big splash move to get James Harden. You also will take on Orlando on the road. That's an Eastern Conference team that is probably going to end up in the play-in, I believe. Let me take a look at the standings real fast here. I'm pretty sure they're just kind of on the edge there. They're a 7 seed, so they could end up a 6 seed depending on how the 76ers end up, but they're probably a postseason team. So that's not going to be some like easy nothing team. That's not an easy game. That was a team that I think had a really nice offseason, and the fact that they're where they're at is rather unfortunate. But you got 2 games against Cleveland. You got a game against Oklahoma City tomorrow night at home, national television, ESPN, and you got a game against San Antonio on the road, a team that you just kind of walked you in your house. I'd like to say that this Pistons team is certainly capable of winning all of those games, because they are. The one thing I don't want is for that loss to San Antonio to be a blueprint for other teams to figure, hey, here's what we do, because once Cade is not shooting well, we're just cruising. We can just cruise. And that's concerning because obviously the 3-point shooting has been a major concern for this team all year. But with all of that being said, is this a finals or bust year for the Pistons? No. However, they are in a spot with where the Eastern Conference is that it is a very clear runway for them to make it to the finals. If they win it, obviously that's awesome. If they get to the finals and they don't win it, okay, you chalk it up to, tough year. I mean, look, Boston just a couple of years ago, they went to the finals and they got beat by Golden State. Just a few years after that, they win the finals. So, it's not like some death nail. It's not like losing the Super Bowl where that can truly derail your franchise for years and years to come. See the Atlanta Falcons. Cade Cunningham being an MVP candidate. Jalen Duren back from his suspension. You're going to have Isaiah Stewart by next week on the road against Cleveland. So that's the other thing. You're going to be without Isaiah Stewart against Oklahoma City and against Cleveland at home and against Orlando on the road. That's not going to be fun. And maybe we were seeing a little bit of the effect of that last night, not having all your guys. So down the stretch, the mission is very simple. Don't get into any more fights, as fun as it can be, and stay healthy. And let the season roll as it will. You're probably going to end up as the 1 seed, assuming you don't completely collapse in the month of March and early April. But the one thing I will take away from all of this is that this team is a true finals contender. But I'm going to need to see them beat some of these Western Conference teams that are in the upper echelon to say that they can absolutely win it all. All right. The Ivy Herter trade turned to a lose-lose for both teams. Herter, third straight, did not play. And Ivy, that's sad. Only saving grace for the Pistons and the Bulls. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a lose-lose for the Pistons because the Pistons were going to pay Ivy. At least for the Pistons, they got something potentially. Like they got a player that, might be able to add something to him. And they got a pick swap, which I'm not sure what the conditions are on that. It might not end up happening. Might not end up benefiting Detroit. I'd say it's certainly a lose for the Bulls because the heart of that trade was getting Jaden Ivey, who is a young, player who showed some spark just a couple of years ago, or just a year ago, and then now a couple of years ago. But now they're probably not going to pay him, and he'll probably end up walking. Like in a certain sense, at least with the Pistons, they rolled the dice to get something for a player that they seemingly have no plans of re-signing. Javonte Green, Karis LeVert getting time over Kevin Herter, basically. Green was always that good bench vet guy, but LeVert has kind of been overwhelming, and he's still getting minutes. Yeah, I mean, that was a guy that I would have liked to see the Pistons package up and trade off, especially given he's on a contract. Yeah, I think he's just on a 1-year deal. Like all year long, Karis LeVert has been one of the more disappointing offseason acquisitions. I thought at the time it was a decent move. He was a pretty decent shooter out in Atlanta. He just really hasn't done anything for you. I know Malik Beasley gambling didn't help, but Duncan is a Piston because of Beasley getting the hammer, not to have both play together. If Malik Beasley was still a Piston, I don't see Duncan in Detroit. And honestly, I kind of prefer that. Given the nonsense that Malik Beasley has found himself getting into. And let's just be honest, the fact that Malik Beasley has been on so many teams at this point, I think he probably wears thin on teams at a certain point. As fun as he was last year, I do prefer Duncan Robinson, and he's having a great, great year. Going into the stretch, San Antonio was the one I was most afraid of because their strength can expose our weakness. OKC is without SJA, and we've beaten Cleveland already, so we can do it again. Yeah, I mean, the only difference is, again, Cleveland is now plus James Harden. So, it's a different, it's a different team. And James Harden, when he gets hot, he can do some damage. And this is also regular season hard. Now, if we were in the postseason and we were playing the Cavaliers, we're absolutely going to win. Absolutely, because James Harden doesn't show up in the postseason because he's too busy going to strip clubs or wherever he's doing. Pick swap is 20 to 30. If the T-Wolves lands in those spots, the Pistons have the opportunity to swap picks. Say the Wolves have 21 and we have 28. The Pistons can switch so we get 21 and they get 28. Okay. So let me look at Tankathon because I'm just curious. I want NBA Tankathon. Yeah, so right now, okay, so the Wolves right now are 21. So that's looking pretty all right. If we could end up, obviously I'm sure there'll be some fluctuation, but I'd rather the 21st pick in the draft than the 29th, right? Like, I'm fine with that, especially, I'm not saying that the 21st pick is going to be some superstar game-changing player, but it's a more valuable pick than, 29, I'd say, for the most part, right? I think we would all agree with that. So, yeah, if you end up taking a shot on a Kevin Huerter who has shown some shooting prowess, but obviously at this point is just not getting the edge on LeVert or on Duncan Robinson, that's fine because at least you get the pick swap and you weren't going to pay Jaden Ivey anyway. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it doesn't. I see the lose on the Bulls side. I just don't really see the lose on the Pistons side, other than that they just didn't get a whole lot. But Jaden Ivey was not the kind of player that you could get a whole lot out of, evidently. The fact that the Bulls were the team that wanted to go and get him tells me everything I need to know about him, which is that teams that are true contenders are not interested. Or teams that, frankly, run a good organization are not interested. The Bulls are one of the most pathetic organizations in the NBA right now. They are riding the backs of that Michael Jordan era. And we're now going to be 30 years removed from that. This year, I believe, it was 96, right? Hold on. I'm pretty sure it wasn't in 96. That was the last. It's either 96 or 97. Maybe it was 98. No, I'm like second guessing myself. Yeah, it was 97, 98. So we're going to be 30 years removed from the last time the Chicago Bulls were relevant in a couple of years. It's crazy. It's crazy. Also, I do find it quite interesting that despite those very terrible Wizards years, he still is the all-time points per game player in the NBA ever, with like 30 points in his career average. That's crazy. Just crazy. He also never had a season where he wasn't an all-star. Not that mattered. Well, anyway, we don't need to go. Michael Jordan was pretty good, I think. I don't know if you've heard. Anyway. All right. You know what? I do want to briefly talk about the MJ and Gilbert Arenas. Were they really on the same team? Were they really? No, they weren't. No, they both played on the Wizards. Oh my gosh, they were. No. Wait, hold on. Hold on. Okay, he played on the Wizards from 01 to 03. Oh, no, Arenas was not on the Wizards at the same time as Jordan. His first year as a Wizard was in 03-04. So he just missed him. Hold on. What are these? Okay. Sometimes these sports reference, it's got some of the funniest things. Like, so there's a nickname section in sports reference, as you probably know. And Gilbert Arenas' nicknames. I want you to know, I want to ask anybody. Does anybody know if anybody's ever called him this? Agent Zero. That's a cool nickname, but I've never heard anybody call him Agent Zero. The Hibachi. Like grill? Gil. I've heard that one. I've heard Gil because, Gilbert. Gil. I've heard that one. Nacho. What is it with foreign like I don't think Gilbert Arenas is Japanese nor Mexican. One of those I'm far more confident in the other. Black president. Keep in mind, Gilbert Arenas was in the NBA the same time that Barack Obama was the president. So I don't know when he acquired this title. Like he could have acquired it in like 04, 05 when George W. Bush was the president. So maybe that would make sense. And then finally, general. Lock your gun arena. Not nice. Not nice. Not nice. Not nice. Where was I? Okay, yeah. I wanted to briefly talk about this Taylor Decker thing. I didn't have any show notes on it, but you brought it up, Detroit fan. So wanted to kind of talk about my thoughts on this. So look, if Taylor Decker comes back, am I upset? Probably not. I mean, for one, he offers a leadership, he offers the experience, and he's, for the most part, been a consistently good player, right? I mean, 2024 was his lone Pro Bowl season. This year he played in 14 games. The year prior he played in 14 games. You're probably going to get somewhere in that range. You're probably going to get 14, 15 games out of him. The days of him getting all 17 games are over, and they really never existed for the most part. I don't think he's going to get much healthier. I also don't know exactly what his contract situation is. Here's the thing. If he comes back, you could say, well, that's one less position that you need to fill, right? You just saw what happened when Frank Ragnow went away, and that wasn't great. So you figure you'd like to just have Taylor Decker back. The problem, of course, is that Taylor Decker is going to be 33 years old. And if you cut him, you could use that money to, sign his replacement, draft his replacement, whatever, trade for his replacement, whatever. If you keep him, let me actually look at his, let's see, does it not show me his contract? AAV. No, wait, that's career. No, never mind. Hold on. I thought it would show me on this website. Let me see. Taylor Decker contract. Let me just look it up here on Spot Track. So, 2026 cap hit is $21 million. So you keep him next year, they're going to be paying him $24 million. So that was, this year, I see. Because 2025 was, last year, right? That's what it's saying. This will be his 30. Yeah, okay. I get confused because this year's 2026, so I thought that meant for last. No. 2026, he'll be making $21 million. You cut him, it's only $9 million in dead cap. And again, you can use that $21 million, the money you were going to pay him, you can use that to go out and get his replacement. Again, you only have him under contract for next year and then the year after that. Now, realistically, is he going to be the kind of player that he was, say, in 2024? Probably not. He's never been an all-pro caliber guy. He's a warrior. He is a fighter. He exudes a lot of the culture, I think, that this team really believes in. So in that regard, I'm fine with him coming back. At the same time, I don't mind, look, Taylor, you done a lot for us. You got us to a couple of NFC North titles. We need to move on. We need to really retool this offensive line. And unfortunately, we just can't fit you in that. I can understand that too. I don't understand exactly getting dogmatic one way or the other. Like if you're like, oh my gosh, we need to go ahead and we need to get rid of him because he's old and he's terrible or what. Okay. Like you can certainly get a whole lot worse than Taylor Decker. And a lot of teams will probably, bite on him for sure. Think of like a Kevin Zeitler, let me just pull up Kevin Zeitler, is probably actually a similar player in a lot of ways to Taylor Decker. Just a one-time Pro Bowler. He was in his late 30s. He got picked up by Detroit in a one-year deal. He got picked up last year by Tennessee in a one-year deal. Both those guys, they played 15, 14. I mean, in Zeitler's case, he played 16 games this year and this past year. He's not nearly as beat up as Taylor Decker is. But once again, Taylor Decker, he is a lot of this culture. He is a lot of the toughness culture, especially on that offensive line. And he knows, he knows the guys. It's like the chemistry's already there. And he offers that veteran leadership, which you just don't have outside of, I guess you could say, Penei Sewell. He's already a captain. I guess it's weird to consider him a veteran when I remember when he was drafted. But hey, he's been in the league for half a decade at this point. So I guess he is a veteran. Either way, I'm fine with keeping Taylor Decker if they can make it work. They still need to address the offensive line. They still need to either free agency, draft, trade. Those are your three options to fix the offense. Excuse me. There's your three options to fix the offensive line. Free agency, draft, trade. You would behoove you to do multiple of those things. Like, it would behoove you to draft offensive line help. It would probably behoove you to also sign offensive line help. The one thing you can't do is do nothing. So if Taylor Decker coming back in some way enables Brad Holmes to think I don't need to do anything, that's bad, because he can't do that. That's not an acceptable end. He just can't. I would not be happy about that. Nor should anybody be happy about that. So yeah, I like Taylor Decker. I'd like to see him back if it makes sense, and if we can continue to make our offensive line a strength like it once was, then make it work. But maybe it's past that point. I don't know. All right. So back to our regularly scheduled programming. I do kind of want to talk about this, just because I think it's really funny. As someone who did not watch literally any of the Olympics, like I didn't watch the game on Sunday. I didn't watch any of the games prior. I watched zero of the Olympics. The amount of Olympic coverage that I got was Hockey Psychology breaking down all the Olympic news. That was the only interest I had. Like, it was like, okay, who won? Cool. Did America win? Cool. If they didn't, I would have been whatever. But look, I do find it incredibly funny that America beat Canada at their own stupid little game. At their own silly little game that is like their lone claim to fame. It's just kind of funny that we even do that better than them now, And look, here's the other thing. To the people who are crying about 3-on-3 in overtime, shut it. Just shut it. I mean, don't waste the oxygen on inane commentary like, oh, well, it just doesn't feel the same. If only it was 5-on-5. Oh, Canada probably would have beat us if it was. Shut it. It's an exhibition game that means nothing. Nothing. You are playing for pride. Who cares? You know what we're not going to remember? Or you know what it sounds like when people do that? It sounds like people who are just looking for a way to be miserable. If you didn't like losing in overtime on 3-on-3, Canada, I got an idea for you. Win in regulation. Or, better yet, win on 3-on-3. Because apparently, a victory is completely invalidated when you win on 3-on-3. Last I checked, if America would have lost on 3-on-3, would we be saying, well, it was 3-on-3, so what's the big deal? No, we wouldn't. I mean, Americans, please learn how to take yes for an answer, because you got to beat Canada on a national stage in hockey, their only thing. It was wonderful. And it was even funnier to watch Nathan McKinnon get handed a stuffed animal, like a stuffed rat or whatever the weasel, whatever they were giving him, as they're awarding the silver medal. That was amazing. It was just great. It's great. I love it. I just, it's amazing. And then on that point, at what point does hockey just become America's property? At what point is it our game? Justin Trudeau, after his country won the meaningless made-up tournament that the NHL just randomly pulled out of their behind, after Canada won that, he said, you can't take our country and you can't take our game, eh? After he said that, what ended up happening was actually we did take your game, and I don't want to get political, but America almost certainly could take your country, absolutely, like without question. We are their army. Like I don't. Anyway, that's a different topic. And look, on that point of hockey being our game now, Canada hasn't had a cup parade since before I was alive, and before some of the players were alive. Before some of the players that were playing in the Olympics, Canada hadn't won a cup. The other thing is obviously they just lose to America in the Olympics. Obviously, that has to mean something. And then finally for me, the last two cup champions have been at the expense of Canada for one, but furthermore, it has been to a team from the Sunshine State. The Sunshine State. A team that plays in Florida has won the last two Stanley Cups. And if you want to go back even further, you got Tampa Bay winning Stanley Cups. You got Vegas winning a Stanley Cup. Even you got St. Louis, even though St. Louis isn't like St. Louis can be pretty cold, but you might as well just say, look, the most American of American states, Florida, like the epitome of American crazy stereotypes, has won back-to-back cups at the expense of Canada. Oh, but there's still mostly Canadian players. Don't care. They're playing in the United States. This is the thing, is they'll say you say that America has owns hockey, but most of the players are Canadian. It's like, okay, well then why are they playing in the Canadian Hockey League then? Oh, I'm sorry. They're playing for American teams mostly? Okay. Well, then we could just throw that in the garbage. That's fine with me. So, yeah, I just thought it was fun. I didn't want to spend too much time on it because I didn't watch it. I'm not going to break down the games or anything like that. But I just thought it was really fun. And I love bragging over Canada. Garbage country. Connor McDavid has lost back-to-back finals and now a gold medal, but hey, he has a Four Nations. So yeah, the thing that the NHL made up last year, he's got one of those. Canada's got a Four Nations. It's like the Knicks with their stupid in-season tournament with the NBA Cup. Raise the banner, Canada. You got a Four Nations, win, I guess. All this, by the way, with the Olympics not letting Russia play, which is absurd. We're gonna let all these other countries who are doing a lot of terrible things too. We're gonna let them play, but we're not gonna let Russia say, Russia, you go to your room. You go to your room, Russia. You're not allowed to play games. It's like last I checked, North Korea had a Winter Olympics team just a few years ago. You guys remember this? Last I checked, the Olympics were in China. So I don't want to hear it from the Olympic Committee kicking Russia out, especially when you got plenty of really great Russian players in hockey. So anyway, yeah, I'm sure Slovakia was putting up the toughest challenge for the United States in the semifinals, right? That's right. Also, yes, I'm aware that basketball was invented by a Canadian, but come on. It might have been invented by a Canadian, but it was mastered by the Americans. Just like hockey at this point. No, I just read that. The Canada game is the only one that saw. The Canada game is the only one that saw me watch like I would a Red Wings game, just because it's Canada, not Germany or Finland. Yeah, I mean, I just don't watch the Olympics, so I'm the last person to ask this. I mean, it's kind of cool to see all the to see all the best American players on a team and all the best Canadian players on a team. That's kind of cool, I guess. Doesn't really doesn't do much for me. Like it really doesn't. And then finally, I just wanted to briefly talk about Michigan State. Get a couple of back-to-back home games, a couple of wins there. That was good. I mean, mission accomplished. I said, look, this is your runway. You got UCLA and you got Ohio State. You got to go out and win these games. And what they do, they did. And in the case of UCLA, they knocked the doors off of them, which was great. And then in Ohio State, they had a gutsy comeback. So, good wins for Michigan State. But look, the next challenge for MSU is Purdue. And if you go out and you beat Purdue, you're right back in that conversation. Not to win the Big Ten. I think that ship has probably sailed. But you're back in that conversation of sneaky team to make a run. And I think Purdue is fairly vulnerable. We saw that Michigan absolutely destroyed them. Now, granted, Michigan absolutely destroyed you. So maybe that's just what Michigan does to teams. But I do think Purdue is fairly vulnerable. Michigan State has beaten Purdue before, as recently as last year. I think we played them last year. I seem to remember winning. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Anyway, what was I trying to say? Purdue game is not necessarily a must win, but it feels like a win that will get you back on track. Like if you lose that game and then, you beat Indiana and then you lose to Michigan, it's like, okay, we'll get in. We'll be like a 6 or 7 seed and we'll probably we might make it out of the first weekend, but nah, it just feels like that this season would be a complete wash in a lot of ways. And the fact that you got completely in that circumstance, like the fact that you got completely lapped by Michigan, a team that you swept last year, that would be incredibly disheartening for this team. And I wanted to give a shout out to Carson Cooper because he finally had his first really great game in a while. I mean, he was electric in that game and he was instrumental in that comeback victory over the Buckeyes. So good for you, Coop. That was awesome to see. Happy about that. 2018 and 2019 was the last time that we beat Purdue and West Lafayette. That would line up. That would have been the Final Four year. So yeah, I could have that makes sense to me. That was a really good team that could have won it all, but we ran into Texas Tech's defense. Anyway. I wanted to I didn't write it down either. I know that it doesn't matter. I'm wearing a Tigers hat. Can we win a spring training game, please? I mean, the closest we've gotten to is a tie against the Orioles. Like, can we win, please? I mean, we're just getting shellacked. Let me pull them up really quick. I just want to just elucidate people on these games. Again, I know they're exhibition games. I know the score doesn't matter at all. But hear me out, man. Okay, you lose 20-3 against the Yankees. You tie 4-4 against Baltimore. You lose 3-0 against Minnesota, and you lose 8-1 against Atlanta. You got a doubleheader tomorrow, so you're gonna have your team split up. One home game, one road game with Toronto, and then at Philadelphia. I understand that these are, exhibition games. I understand that the lineups are not, exactly where you want to be. And I know that pitchers are getting pulled after like an inning. I understand all of that. But I'm just saying, man, like, what the heck? Can we win one game? I know nobody remembers who had a good spring training record, of course, because it's a made up game or it's a made nobody. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying. Okay. That's all I have. I don't have anything further to add on that. I guess I heard that Max Clark had a game tying hit on Sunday. So that was fun. And to me, to really be interested in this team as far as hitting, I need one of Max Clark or Kevin McGonigal to be on the team. That would make me really interested in their team or in the team's hitting. I think at some point one or both of those guys will end up on the team. But if McGonigal or Clark makes the team out of spring training, then I'm interested in this team's hitting core. I'm already interested in their pitching staff. I think their pitching staff is phenomenal. But I'd be interested in their hitting core if either one of those guys makes it in. Because at least that makes it interesting, right? At least it makes it interesting. So, I don't know. I'm not following any of these games as long as they're not on TV, which that's another thing is I still don't know how to watch Tiger games. I'm assuming at some point some of these spring training games will be on TV. I don't know which ones. And even if they are, they're not going to be on FanDuel because I have to buy like 100 different subscription services just to watch my sports teams. I don't know why my YouTube TV can't just cover all of them, but hey, shout out local sports networks for not being a part of YouTube TV. I'm not mad. You're mad. All right. I don't have anything else. I just realized I was like thinking, it's like, no, I guess that's it. Trey Sweeney is injured, so will probably help McGonigal since that means shortstops are him, Baez, and McKinstry. Well, McKinstry and Baez are making the team. McKinstry had the All-Star year. I guess both McKinstry and Baez had the All-Star year, and Baez is getting paid too much, so he's making the team. And McKinstry probably is going to slot more in that third base role, more so, I think, than shortstop, although he is a utility guy. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if McGonigal tears it up in spring training, which I don't know, I haven't been keeping track of it, and, I guess we'll find out how good he has been. But, he's not if he makes the team out of spring training, like if come opening day against the Padres, he's on the starting lineup, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good about that. But that's just me. But that's it. I guess it was a shorter show. I kind of expected to have a little bit more to talk about, but I guess I don't. So, okay. I guess that's it then. If you enjoyed, please hit the like, hit the subscribe button. We'll be back again next week. It will be February. Wow, it's already February. It will be March, and I know that the NFL free agency begins sometime in March. I don't know exactly when. So that could be fun. Maybe the Lions will make a flurry of moves. We'll be able to talk about all the NFL free agency stuff, and of course the March Madness tournament will be starting in March, as it always does. Anyway, with all that being said, thank you all for listening in and pre-NHL deadline show. That's also a good point. Yeah, we'll see what Steve Yzerman wants to do. I hear that Peter Mrazek is available, so we'll go out and get him. And please, I need the Red Wings to not fall apart in March, because if they do, I gave up. So I'm not on Reddit. I gave it up for Lent, just because it makes me angry a lot of time. And I will just say this. There's a part of me that really just, if the Red Wings collapse again in the month of March, I have to see what the Red Wings subreddit is saying. Because these Red Wings fans are just lemmings. These are just slappies for the team. I'm surprised they don't work for Chris Ilitch in many cases. Or I guess for Steve Yzerman more appropriately. But look, I mean, the Red Wings are in a prime position to make the playoffs this year. So, can you do it, please? Can you just do the job and then maybe I'll be back on the train? Please? I don't know. Anyway, we'll break it down we'll break it all down next week. Take care, everybody. I'll see you all next Tuesday. Have a good rest of your night. See ya. See you later. Goodbye.